Today's episode of Once an Owl, Always an Owl is brought to you by Poland Dental. Check them out at www.drpoland.com. The Kane Institute serves as the epicenter for the STEM education and technology transfer for AD Henderson and FAU High School. The Institute's integration approach to solving society's most challenging problems engages the best and brightest students, faculty, and resources to explore today's most complex challenges in arenas such as cyberbullying, autonomous vehicles, robotics, virtual reality, augmented reality, automation, and artificial intelligence. In 2018, entrepreneur Daniel Kane made a $1 million gift to support science, technology, engineering, and math initiatives to benefit STEM education and activities, thus establishing the Kane Institute for Advanced Technologies at Henderson and FAU High. Daniel is the CEO and co-founder of South Florida's based Modernizing Medicine, founded in 2010. ModMed is transforming healthcare by placing doctors and patients at the center of care through an intelligent, specialty-specific cloud platform. The team of 3,400 supports healthcare providers in all 50 states. Known for its progressive growth as a medical technology company, ModMed is frequently recognized both nationally and regionally for its achievements under Daniel's leadership. An entrepreneur again, Daniel has a bachelor's in applied economics from Cornell, where he co-founded Blackboard Inc., raised over $1 million in venture capital, and in 2004 helped take the company public on the NASDAQ. In 2011, Blackboard was sold for over $1 billion. He's also active in the local community. Daniel serves as a trustee of Florida Atlantic University and the Boca Raton Chamber of Commerce and is a member of the Cornell University Council. Oh, wow. I have goosebumps. Alan Phipps is the K-12 District STEM Coordinator and Director of the Kane Institute. He is a PhD candidate for a degree in higher education leadership. During his tenure as an educator, he has had opportunities that most only dream about, such as being an Albert Einstein Distinguished Educator Fellow, attending the National Science Foundation as a practitioner informing policy, and speaking at the White House during an environmental education summit. And then I have here our youngest participant today, Mark Zaga, is only 15. Wait till you hear about him. An FAU High sophomore pursuing a major in mechanical engineering or biology with a minor in math. To date, one of his greatest accomplishments was winning the Best Presentation Award for MATE regional competition in 7th grade. And he's going to tell us the story of why a little later. And Mark enjoys helping others as a learning assistant at the University for Calculus 1. Remember, he's a high school student as a learning assistant at the university, helping students with calculus, and is a volunteer at Learn to Be. This online one-to-one program helps kids from underserved communities unlock their potential by connecting them with exceptional tutors like Mark, online for free, right?
Yep.
Awesome. And I know there's lots more to you than even I described with this wonderful intro, but I just wanted to welcome you today, gentlemen. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. And I want you to be able to tell in your own words. I know Alan and Dan, you have amazing children. And I know that even with your unbelievable resumes and all the things that you've done, I know that those are your pride and joys and that you're most proud of. Can you tell us a little bit? I'm going to have you start with Dan. Tell us a little bit about your journey and your family and whatever else you want to share.
I was going to say, if you want me to talk about my children, I can spend the next hour embarrassing them, but I think they'd be mortified. I do adore, I've got 3 children. All 3 have been through AD Henderson, FAU High. 2 are still at FAU High School. My son is following my footsteps at my alma mater, Cornell. And they are most interesting people I've ever met. I know I am biased, but they're wonderfully weird and wacky and eccentric, and they follow their passions. And that's something that my wife Deborah and I really encourage, is that they get to forge their own path. And the last thing they want to do is become just like a clone of their dad or a clone of their mom. And we certainly encourage them to do what it is that resonates with them, and that leave an indelible mark in the world in some positive way, any way they can. So Connor's currently pursuing a history degree at Cornell University. And then I've got a junior and a sophomore at FAU High who are taking classes ranging from the environment to society to macroeconomics.
And it's incredible. And Alan, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I worked at FAU High for 11 years, and I too have two children that are in the A.D. Henderson FAU family. So Henry is now in second grade and is just a ball full of energy and a lot of spunk, and just loves to follow in Daddy's footsteps and do whatever I'm involved in. So I'm enjoying that phase of his life. Aiden is now a ninth grader, so he's experiencing the FAU High boot camp experience and struggling, but surviving and really beginning to shine. I'm really proud of him and of course, he's kind of had to follow in my footsteps. I'm the STEM coordinator, so he's been involved in a lot of STEM things, but really proud. Last year, he checked all the boxes. He was the current reigning world champion in sea perch underwater robotics, went to state science fair, placed first in the district, second at states, and was a SECME national champion, all in 8th grade. So this year he's taking a little break from STEM to focus on that 9th grade experience.
That is no joke, right? The school is not for everybody, but if you have, and look, part of a shared struggle is shared experience, right? That intensity of FAU High's 9th grade year is a bonding experience for the students, and it really makes, and in their lives, struggle is important, right? And it's part of the grit that makes good people and good entrepreneurs, is going through something that is going to be a major challenge. And 9th grade at FAU High is no joke, just the workload and the amount of intensity they have to put into it. But through that experience, they learn that if they challenge themselves, they can become, absolutely fantastic academic students.
Absolutely. And they learn to bond. They have groups and they learn how to give back. I mean, Mark's a perfect example. I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself. You have siblings also at the school. You went through the school, and also talk about how like these two gentlemen and others like them support you as a student. Like, talk to us a little bit about your journey and where you are now.
Yeah. So I came to Henderson in 5th grade and I'm now in 10th grade. So it's been, I think, 6 years or 5 years. And what happened was I really got into the Kane Institute was in 8th grade, my first semester, I was taking pre-calculus. So they didn't offer that at Henderson. And at FAU High, it's semester-based classes. So for the first semester, I had a block of an hour and a half where I did nothing. And I was just kind of sitting around. And I walked into the Kane Institute and I was like, oh, this is a nice place to hang out. And then Miss Phibbs, maybe a week later, had me doing solar car work, CADing for parts. And then I became a solar car member. I've been Kane Institute's my hangout spot since then.
So let's take a moment back, because it's sounding like I love interviewing the kids, because they're like, oh, I had nothing to do and then I got pulled in. So he was taking full courses and he needed to take pre-calculus. Pre-calculus is not offered as a typical middle school course. We're mostly up to algebra 2. We had students that were in algebra 2. So Mark took a course at the high school that was in the high school course, and it was just a different schedule. So he was taking the course, he'd finished his coursework and had some time, because he wasn't formally in a middle school class because he was taking the high school math class. So that's also what happens here at FAU Henderson, FAU High, and FAU. It's not only the academics, they're pulling them into different opportunities. And Mark, you had mentioned one of your favorite memories or most impactful award was something in 7th grade, and it was a really great story. Why did that make such an impact, that award?
Yeah, so that was a little bit before the Kane Institute, but I was kind of doing Mate with my friends, and I wasn't as prepared. We weren't doing it the Kane Institute way. We were kind of just trying to do it. We were just going into competition. Probably shouldn't have entered. But what happened was that we were going to the competition, and we were about to check in our robot, and we dropped our robot on the floor. And it broke into a million pieces and everyone saw. And then we took this robot because for the Mate, you have to do an obstacle course and you have to present. And we did the worst in the obstacle course. I think we probably got the lowest score they've ever seen. But in the presentation, we marketed the robot as indestructible because you could put it back together and it would still work. And we won the presentation award.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I love how you said it was before the Kane Institute way. So, I know that third-party validation is really important for us. We always look at research, and I saw, Dan, that I don't know if it was this year or the year before, through the Black Book's annual survey, ModMed ranked number 1 in all 9 surgical specialties that you provide, and there was an award that names the company, and it was each and every, and I love that you gave credit. You said it, that's great. We got this award, but it was a 3,400 employees. So I know you do your research. I know you invest in the community, but why $1 million in a public school? If you can kind of
Sure. I mean, when I was first introduced to Henderson, when my oldest son now, who's at Cornell, was getting into it in 5th grade. He actually was the first of the Canes to come in and transferred in middle school or elementary school. It's 5th grade. 5th grade. And I noticed that the quality of the teaching didn't match the quality of the facility, and that the biggest gaps from an academic perspective were really STEM related, science, technology, engineering, and math related. And this wasn't a intention gap. It was purely a funding gap. Like, the school just didn't have the resources to do these really high-tech initiatives, whether it was, solar cars or autonomous vehicles, or the underwater robotics leagues, or all these incredible ideas. And they had the drive, and they had the faculty and staff and student interest, and what it really needed was funding. And so I was in the fortunate position to be able to say, well, let's give this a try. And instead of building a building that you put your name on, which a lot of people do and we're grateful for, I said, we're going to give the gift entirely for programming. And really focusing it on STEM, because not everyone needs to go into STEM, but for those that want to go into it, you need the resources, the capital to be able to make these investments in, an underwater robotics facility, right? You need underwater cameras, you need a pool to be able to put them in, you need all these types of things to make it happen. And the state of the art is changing every year, right? So what made a really cool autonomous programmable drone 2 years ago doesn't even pass muster to the ones that came out, 6 months ago. So it's in constant need of innovation. And these students, as you see, with our peer mark here, you simply have to get out of their way, make the opportunities available, give them a little guidance, give them sort of the raw ingredients, and let them create. And that's one of the things I love seeing at the Kane Institute.
I agree. And I don't think Mark could have said it better. He basically said it was pre-you. Everything was really hard work. You had the staff there, but we'd be going into it like, this is a great team. Let's try this. Or now it's very, very specific and very programmatic and deliberate. I mean, we really have a plan and we follow the plan. And Alan, if you can kind of talk to us, I know you just recently partnered with FP&L, got a $25,000 sponsorship. So once kind of Dan paved the way, that yellow brick road, now others are coming behind them to help support the great work we're doing. So can you talk a little bit about that, Alan?
Yeah, sure. We're really excited about FP&L coming alongside as our signature sponsor for underwater robotics in South Florida. That donation has allowed us to be a force multiplier in the community. So most of that money actually isn't coming to help us. It's going out into the community. We are hosting teacher workshops. We've done one in Broward County, 2 in Palm Beach, 1 in Orange County. We've got 1 in Sarasota coming up. And FP&L is actually talking about sending me to Northwest Florida, to the Panhandle. They want Sea Perch in all schools in their service provision network. So we're really excited about their help in getting that out. They've also sponsored all of our tournaments, and providing all the money to build the obstacles and buy the trophies and all the things that go into organizing a tournament. So we're back to pre-COVID. We were hosting 4, 5, 6 tournaments a year. We're back to that level, and we're expanding. So with our help, we've now worked with Jen Davis at Palm Beach County Schools, and we're excited that she's written a grant. And we're going to have Sea Perch underwater robotics in all 75 of their middle school and high schools as part of the Kane Institute effort. Is
fantastic. And one of the things that's important to note is FAU has got a very special charter with A.D. Henderson and FAU High, and that it's a state lab school, which is a very special distinction. It makes funding a little bit more interesting since it has to all come from the state, not from the county.
Yes.
And it's why support like from our community partners like FPNL are just so important. But the school is supposed to try and establish, okay, what does curriculum for underwater robotics even look like? What's success look like? What's failure look like? What works? What doesn't work? And then take some of those dollars and make them force multipliers, right? Take what works really well after we've tried it for a few years, learned how to do it, and get that STEM programming distributed to other parts of the state of Florida. And frankly, I think this model should be something that's taken nationally and internationally. Like not every school can have Einstein fellows and $1 million donors. So we're very fortunate to be, here we are in beautiful Boca Raton, Florida. But we can take the learnings and the curriculum and the content and share that and make it effective. So I'm delighted to hear we're taking it throughout Palm Beach County. That's wonderful news.
Yeah. I mean, and Broward, I know that you're training up in Jupiter. You've done some training up in the north part of the county. So it's really important, as Dan says, it's not just about what we're doing here with this small core group of students. It's about how we are replicating. And, we always talk about ROI and what is the investment and how can we help others. Now, I'm going to jump back because I know I'm not going to talk about the cars till later. That is like your favorite topic to talk about. But talking about communities and society, we just won a tremendous amount of awards at the Science Fair project, and it's all based on research. I mean, the Science Fair is a poster to talk about how we can change. So Alan or Mark, can you talk about some of the projects maybe that you've done or that you've assisted students with that really make an impact?
Mark, you want to take it first?
Sure. So the two projects that I did was in high school was last year I did a project about rolling resistance on solar car tires, and I tested them on a treadmill. And the big advantage of doing a science fair project at FAU High is that you can also submit it to the Office of Undergraduate Research at FAU, and then you get grant money for the club. So last year I did a solar car one. This year I'm doing a mate one. So this year I'm doing detecting coral with AI underwater. So we have images from scuba divers that we used AI to be able to detect the health of coral. And then we submitted an RUI, which is very similar, in which we connect it with the ROV to have like a real world application of an ROV that can have this mechanism to detect underwater coral.
I love it.
Isn't that great? So once again, it's a club, but it's also a project that you're submitting, but then it's solving real world problems. And these are very young ladies and gentlemen that have a huge future. I always say I'm so excited that I knew them when, and hopefully they'll be the ones taking care of us, So it's phenomenal. Dan, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, it's part of this magic of having a, elementary, middle, high school, university all tied together, where FAU high school students are strongly encouraged to get involved in undergraduate research, which in and of itself is not something you hear a lot of universities really promoting. So FAU, putting my trustee hat on for a second, I'm incredibly proud of the amount of undergraduate research and publication that's happening at the undergraduate level. But some of that is actually FAU high students publishing as undergraduates who are publishing and getting published in prestigious journals, New England Medicine, all sorts of engineering journals. So they have the ability and encouragement, but also the support from faculty and staff to go out and figure out, how do you get grant money? How do you get access to supercomputers for AI training? How do you learn these things? And to have students coming out of high school who are published, it not only is a great resume builder, it's a great confidence builder that I'm now contributing to the greater good of science by talking about how do I take and train an AI model, which, by the way, is something people, high school kids can do. Everyone, anyone can do it if they put their mind to it. But to tie it to your underwater robotics passion and say, we're going to put cameras on ROVs, and then we're going to work with, the big boy ROVs and the bigger underwater robotics things to look at the health of coral, which is incredibly paramount to our health of our ocean ecosystem, is wonderful. So well done.
Thank you.
Congrats.
And some of you mentioned the supercomputer. We've actually got a 7th grader that's using the supercomputer at Jupiter campus he's looking at chemical compound ECGC, which is found in green tea, and looking at its binding effects on certain cancer cells. So we get them started early and often in scientific research. Mark knows that, in all of our club activities, we embed research into those club activities. We've got multiple research project. I think the solar car, we've done over 10 research projects embedded into that one project alone, because everything's data-driven design, research-driven design for our engineering projects. But then we've got really in middle school and in high school, if in science fair, sky's the limit, whatever they want to study. We try and support their passion. So we're really, really happy with our science fair project and science fair program. So this year we had a world record. We had a school record of we took 20 students. We're allowed to take 20 middle school students to the science fair. Every single one of them won an award for the first time in school's history, and then a record 7 of them won first place in their category and are advancing to the state championship.
I mean, I was so excited and so proud because I know, again, that being deliberate, we now have a focus, we have a plan, and each year it becomes more and more evident that you having a plan and not just having a team that's one off. And Dan, this is what you started. I mean, they have a beautiful new building. So much has happened since that day.
Dr. Herbst had a vision.
Yes.
Right. We met for lunch 11, 12 years ago at this point. And I heard his vision for what he wanted to do with Henderson, with FAU High, and STEM programming. And I said, how can I help? Knowing full well that if we were going to create all these programs and build these new buildings, which we've done now, that my own children wouldn't be the beneficiaries because they've moved on now. They're just at the university. But it would really be for the next generations coming through. So, I mean, when I toured this it really is a magnificent structure and building.
Yes.
With all these embedded labs and very planful design. And how do you build space that is collaborative, that is engineering focused, that has all the right tools and technologies and, laser cutters and water jets and this, and just all the things that you need to be able to pull it off as like a giant playground for elementary, middle and high school kids to get fascinated and turned on to the possibilities of science and technology. Yeah. So it really does feel incredibly fulfilling. We wouldn't have been able to do it without the support of the legislature. That's one of the pros and cons of being a lab school is we are at the mercy of the legislature, but they, what they saw was undeniable. They saw these students, they saw the research, they saw, sweeping science fairs at the local and state level. And we've got some people that have even gone on to the National Science Fair and have won that. They've met ex-presidents. So it's I guess you're never an ex-president, right? You're just a president, former president. And I don't know if we have any that have met President Biden yet, but it's probably just a matter of time.
It's true. Yeah. So Alan, tell us a little bit about the science fair and the next step, because as Dan mentioned, hopefully the next step is that international science fair, national and international.
So at the middle school level, states is kind of the stopping point. Our high school, we have, I believe, 5 that are advancing on to states. And then last year we took a record 3 to the ISEF, to International Science and Engineering Fair, and 2 of those 3 won awards on the international stage. So we're crossing our fingers for states that's coming up in about a month, that hopefully a couple or more of our high school students will get the golden ticket to go to the International Science and Engineering Fair.
Great. And what other projects are going on and competitions, anything?
Sure. So beyond Sea Perch and underwater robotics, we've got Sea Perch at the middle school level. Mate underwater robotics is kind of Sea Perch on steroids. It's the high school level. Then we've also got science fair. We've got our alternative energy vehicles. We just finished our electric go-kart and took it out in the parking lot, and we're driving around last Friday afternoon for little joy rides. And then we've got SECME and Science Olympiad and, all of the typical clubs. But then, Solar Car is our big ticket project that we've been working on for several years. We've got huge support in the community, raised over probably $80,000, $90,000 for that project so far. And we have big sponsors on board. Vectorply is donating all the carbon fiber for a full carbon fiber car. 3A is donating all the foam core. Scott Bader Inc. is donating all the resin, and it's the same resin that's used in the new Corvette. So it's cool to talk about. The foam core is all recycled foam, recycled PVC. So we're trying to be eco-friendly in the car that we're building. And Mark's the lead CAD technician on that project.
Yeah.
Mark, tell us a little bit, what does he mean by CAD for the people who don't know out there?
Is it computer aided or automated design? I've heard both.
Computer
But
aided design.
CAD is basically, I take whatever I see in my head, which is a 3D design, and then I put it into the computer as best I can. The two big things I've CAD'd is I CAD'd the entire suspension for the car, and we're getting those parts milled right now. And then most recently, I CAD'd the parts that are going to be cut out of carbon fiber pieces, and they're going to get cut very soon. And we'll put the car together with them.
That's incredible. So Mark, any other projects? What do you have? What is your future? Like, what do you want to do next steps? And how do you feel like this program has helped you get there?
I haven't really decided what I want to do in the future. I've considered biomedical engineering, but FAU doesn't offer that. So I'm trying to take both and then maybe go somewhere else or stay here. I really don't know yet, but I love engineering and I know that it'll help me in the future. So I like to stay at this program.
So I know you said you were thinking about your undergrad and then maybe a graduate program, other places. So what would you, biomedical engineering, I know is your passion, but what were you thinking about for an undergrad degree?
Probably either mechanical engineering or biology, as I said. Those are like my two passions right now. And then I definitely want to get a minor in math because I just love math.
I know.
I feel like I have the time right now, so I want to learn as much math as I can.
That's great. So
he's actually the learning assistant for calculus, which my son is now taking as a 9th grader. So when he has these last minute urgent, like I need help on homework, he's calling and texting or discording with Mark at wee hours of the morning. So,
and that is one of the great things at the program. You don't have to be stuck to a curriculum that's set. If you have, either way, if you need assistance or if you need, you can, sky's the limit. And I mean, FAU has been amazing. We've had students in middle school, before we had a calculus course at the high school, drive them over in a golf cart and take a calculus course on campus. So FAU has been an amazing partner with that also. So that's great.
Mark, what year are you again?
A sophomore.
So I would reach out to through the school to see what's going on in the Jupiter campus at the Honors College and with Scripps Max Planck. Because I wouldn't be surprised if even if it wasn't a formal like molecular engineering or biomedical engineering program, that they do have all the different types of access to biomedical devices. And if you're interested in like, I want to, instead of 3D printing with CADs, something physical, if you wanted to get, I've created this RNA strand and I want to bind it into a yeast cell and see how it produces something. Like we're at the age of technology now where you can program life.
Yeah.
Like not the scary kind of like self-replicating life, but if you want to see how a certain protein folds, you can use technology to supercompute that out and do it. And then you can actually create those molecules and test them. And it's a combination of mail away, or I wouldn't be surprised if they had on that campus something that could actually print out DNA sequences.
Yeah, you're right. And you know what? On just to echo on that, they also have the opportunity to build your own major. I mean, you can apply for your own major. Yeah. So we've had a few students, now that you brought that up, you're right. We've had a few students that found a passion that wasn't there, and FAU has been great to support students doing that. So that's something we can talk about after. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go to the governor. I'll get it approved as a new major course. We'll get the faculty and the staff. But BME is a really emerging area at the intersection of biology and technology. And several universities. This isn't something you'll find at every university, but I'm sure that you could either string together your own type of program, or I wouldn't be surprised within a few years if FAU wasn't pursuing that type of intersection itself, because we have a med school. It's one of the best in the country. We have great engineering programs. And so it's something that kind of it can either sit in the med school, or it can sit in engineering, or it can sit in arts, in biology. So it's something that I can certainly bring up at the next CASA, which is the Committee on Academic and Student Affairs at the board.
That's fantastic.
We'll call it the Mark degree.
Yeah, the Mark degree. I love it. Well, thank you so much again for all of this great information. I knew this match would be good, Alan. Thank you for bringing Mark along, and Dan. Oh my goodness, this is just an amazing way to start a Monday morning. So I just wanted to ask, is there anything else that maybe you'd like to share, you'd like to cover? I know we talked about, I wanted to make sure you got your families in there. And Mark, just really quick as a student there, I know you have siblings also. As Dan mentioned, his kids are very different, all very passionate about different things. Can you talk about your siblings? I know the three of you are very different also.
I'm very STEM driven. My sister is complete opposite. She's all about acting and theater. And the only thing we share is that I play the violin and she sings. So we'll try to sing and play the violin over each other in the house. And Ben plays baseball, so there's very little space in between, but it's fun to go to his baseball games and go to theater shows, and they go to my robotics events, and we all learn from each other.
And they were all super successful in their own areas at the school, which is really great. I mean, you have a very passionate family that loves different things, and you're very fortunate. You have great parents that support through it all, and also the educators that love you and support you. Anything else, Alan?
No, we are just at 80 Henderson FAU High just so super appreciative of Dan and his support. We would not be here. When I started 11 years ago, 10 and a half, 11 years ago, the STEM program didn't exist. I was in a closet in the high school building, and then Dan came along, and the program really flourished. So I really appreciate all that Dan. He's really the first person to really believe in Dr. Herp's vision, believe in my vision, our shared vision, and what we could accomplish. We're so excited about our phase 2 building that's coming on board, hopefully breaking ground soon. And once that is in place, I mean, the sky's the limit of what these students can be able to do once we've really got a state-of-the-art 3D printing, laser cutting lab, state-of-the-art facility. So we're excited.
Yeah.
And I'll make a gentle plug for Mickey Zitzman, who runs development for the high school and for all the programs actually. He's done just a wonderful job. We were the kickoff gift, but there have been so many that have followed along. And it doesn't need to be a large gift. I mean, people are giving, a few $1,000, here and there. Some are giving larger if they can, but the ability to have philanthropy, especially alumni philanthropists. Again, it doesn't have to be a big check. It can be the named water fountain or the named, button on an elevator. It doesn't, I joke, but actually I see these little plaques all over and I think it's great. I love that people are naming classrooms and people are naming, new devices or the underwater pool program or whatever it is. So it's just to, a plea to reach out if you are an alumni or you see the things that are going on in these programs that what are we calling the campaign? It's I always forget it. It's got a wonderful name. And Mickey's going to kill me right now when he hears. He's like, "You don't remember the name? It was Let's Build It Together, or something like that."
Yeah, something like that.
It was something like
that.
Build It Together.
Build It Together. Yeah. Okay, the Build It Together. See, I did remember.
You did.
The Build
You
It
did
Together
great.
campaign, which has done just a phenomenal job getting that phase 1 building, which is it's a masterpiece. But now there's more to do. Right now we've got phase 2, and we'll keep building out. And it's important for the state to see that we're fulfilling our mission of being a lab school,
correct,
discovering this curriculum. And then sharing it in the broader community. And so that's what gives me, the most sense of accomplishment is that we were able to do this, see the vision through, and now it's really taking effect as not only shining a bright light on what's happening at Henderson and FAU High, but it's showing that, you can pull off these incredible solar car competitions and supercars and underwater robotics. And it's not underwater robotics for the sake of underwater robotics. It's underwater robotics to show these, aspiring students that they can form a team. I remember Anya, my youngest, was on a team of elementary school girls. It was an all-girls underwater robotics sea perch club. And they would go around and compete together. And it was a blast to watch them, design and build and tweak their little underwater robot and have it navigate through these underwater obstacles. And it's it has all the right parts of team building and engineering and fun. And you're doing something cool. You're like, oh yeah, I have an underwater robot that I've helped 3D print designs on and tested different things. I'm like, yeah, that's great.
Dan mentioned it's not all about the hard skills, about learning how to CAD, learning how to write software. It's the soft skills as well. So that teamwork, that time management, meeting deadlines. We've got a tournament 2 weeks. What do we need to get done? Punch list. All those soft skills of communication that we try and develop through the Kane Institute. It's not just an engineering lab. It's really a life lab.
And learning how to fail, because I'm going to tell you, probably most schools that have these kinds of clubs and organizations, it's frustrating when a student fails or a teacher maybe does a project, doesn't go as well, but it's a learning curve. And Mark, I loved your story. That's why you literally took a fail and got a win. I mean, that's what it's all about. Failure is winning. I mean, that's how you learn and how you grow. I'm sure, Dan, in your company, you had a million times where you've learned from lessons. It wasn't just perfect day one. So,
oh yeah. I mean, it's my one of the most used Edison quotes I have is someone was asking him how he was progressing on his way to create the different filament. And he hadn't yet found the right combinations and the right gas and the right type of filament and the size and everything else. And he said, well, I've learned hundreds of ways not to make a light bulb. And each failure is a little success because you're one step closer to learning how to do it. So and those lessons, they can be very frustrating.
Yes.
And they're hard to learn, those life lessons on team building. I remember watching some of the drivers for the robots are some of the best athletes in the school.
Yes.
And they don't really view themselves as like science geeks, but they are so good at hand-eye coordination. And so you really do need a team effort to be able to do it. And then to your point, Mark, there's some of these have presentations associated with the competition, associated with the design and development in your design docs. And so you need organizers, you need people who can, artists to articulate your presentations, you need presenters, like you need all those life soft skills that make you able to play in the team sport of life, because very little in this world now, because everything's so complex, you can just go on your own and be a lone wolf and find and invent things. You need a team of people to do it. And that's where all the soft skills that you're learning now are going to play, huge dividends.
That is a great way to end. I'm going to tell you, I have one last question. It's my favorite question. But before, I just want to say this has been like the recipe for success. You have the students with the ability and that passion to do things and putting in location and not holding them back. You have the educators and the leaders with that amazing vision. But again, that spark of success was great. And until someone like you came along and said, hey, I see that this is a great program. This is a public school. I want to commit and help. And it was, you basically gave a blank slate. Like you said, you didn't commit to a building, you committed to a program, and it's paid dividends. And from that launch date, I'll say it again, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be where we are today, because you were that first person that said, I believe in you. Let's do this together. So congrats. And you're right. Thanks to Mickey and Joel and Alan and Mark and to Dan and all the people that came after. So everybody's working so hard. I know you're getting your PhD. I talked to you when you're like up all night, up all weekend. Mark, Dan, I'm sure you do the same thing. So what do you do for fun? And it cannot be underwater robotics or mate. Dan, you want to talk about what you do for fun? Can I do
underwater robotics and mate? That sounds really fun.
No.
Or work on a PhD. Actually, both do sound like fun. Anything outside, I have the best wife and life partner and best friend anyone could ever ask for. And we are also very different. It turns out your children are nothing like you if you let them sort of, I was expecting a clone of me, a clone of her, and then one sort of in between. And we got three, the dice are just thrown the way they are and they love what they love. And we just encourage them to do so. But I'm very blessed that my wife loves to be outside. And for me, just anything reconnecting with nature, love hiking, love being under the water, just anything outside, which because we live in paradise and it's winter, this is the perfect time to do it. Summers get a little stickier out here, but that's what recharges my batteries, getting back to nature.
Awesome. Alan Phipps?
Have a wonderful wife as well that is very supportive, very, very supportive of all the initiatives that I've done at work. And she does her best to pull me away from that. And we absolutely love traveling together. So, and we love traveling and seeing the world through our children's eyes. So, this summer we're I grew up in Japan. My wife's been there several times with me. But our kids have never been. And now Aiden and Henry is now old enough that if we take him, he's going to remember. We went to Hawaii together as a family this past summer, which Aiden went when he was 1, so he had no recollection. So to see the world through their eyes is just really rewarding. So we love to travel as a family.
And they grow so fast. Yeah. And Mark, I know you don't have a wife that supports you, but what's your favorite thing to do?
My favorite thing to do is play the instruments I play. I play the violin and piano, and I got my musical ear from my grandpa, so I love hanging out with him and playing my instruments with him and talking with him.
Oh my gosh, he's going to love hearing that. That is like beautiful. And you are just such an old soul and sweet. And one day you will have a wonderful wife to support you in all your dreams. Well, thank you, gentlemen, so much. Like I said, this is a great way to start a Monday morning, and look forward to many more exciting things happening at the Cain Institute. And thank you for our sponsor today, because today's episode of Once an Owl, Always an Owl was brought to you by Dr. Poland Dental. Check them out at www.drpoland.com.